Okay, so welcome to another episode of Rowena's Oasis. This is our second episode, and I have the lovely Max here today.
Thank you for having me.
From the Plant Code podcast. You're very welcome, although you might want to leave very soon when you realise how skillful my podcast is going to be.
That's the beauty of it, you know, you just got to put yourself out there, give it a shot, see what happens really.
Yeah, and I would say that Max has been probably the number one person who has been pushing me to get this podcast going. So thank you so much for all your help.
My pleasure, always here to help, and always here to help anyone who does want to start a podcast.
Yeah,
I'm always happy to give
some
some advice.
What would you say to some other people if they wanted to start something like this? How is best to get started? What sort of tips, information can you give them?
That's a good question. I mean, when I started mine just under a year ago now, I did it completely on a whim. I woke up one day, I'm like, I'm going to start a podcast. And then 2 days later, I was recording my first episode and I put it out, and it went from 0 to 100, like straight away. I was doing it. I would suggest, first of all, the most important thing is to actually do it.
Yes.
You can think about it, you can plan it, you can pontificate.
Hence our lovely setup here today.
This is the important thing, is just to start putting out episodes. And your first episode probably is going to be rubbish. Your first 10 episodes are probably going to be rubbish. But then your 50th one will be good, but you can't get to the 50th one without doing that first one.
And I think it's so true, isn't it, that we're all scared of doing something and then it completely flopping or being a failure. I have an example actually with this. So my 6-year-old, she really wants to learn the piano, and she came back, I think it was a week ago, and I started teaching her some piano. So I'm pointing, there's a piano there.
There's a piano.
There's a piano. And she literally started crying after about 2 minutes when I tried to explain the treble clef, the bass clef, and she was like, I'm never going to be able to do this. It's like, well, not all your friends who can play the piano did it in one day. You know, they couldn't get what the note was or anything like that, and then they've managed to now play in their.
But we live in a world of instant gratification, don't we? We want everything straight away. We want it now. Especially look at social media. You want immediate success.
Yes, exactly.
You see someone does a podcast and they have 1 million views in the first episode, then you're like, why is mine not doing that?
Yeah.
And then you get demotivated and you stop doing it.
Yeah. And I think also that's a really important thing about the views. So we look at social media, and some of these accounts got massive amount of following, but they're not always engaged with their followers.
Very true.
And that's one thing I've always really wanted to do with my social media and platforms, is that the people who choose to follow me because they actually want to engage, or they at least want to take the information in and utilise it, rather than it just being like a scroll through and just falling for a number.
Yeah, you see a lot of people, they have 20, 30, 40, 50,000 followers, and they post something, they'll get maybe 200 likes or something like that.
And sometimes you get the random comments underneath, like, so nice, sir.
Yeah, great post.
Great post, and you know it's not real or true or anything.
I posted like a harrowing picture, I don't know, something involving the animal agriculture, and someone was like, nice pic, and like,
so
is this
random.
even a real world
or
anymore?
please get in contact with me for whey protein, and you're like, I'm not sure if you understand the whole
concept.
I mean,
that's especially Instagram that I find has become very, very impersonal. Nobody wants to follow you. They want you to follow them,
and
but
then
they
follow,
don't.
And then as soon as you follow them, they unfollow and things like that. This is like a game, right? Yeah. I'm sure you're going to get that with any kind of platform, but I think that's the thing as well. When you're producing content, you want it to be for people who are actually going to take it on. I mean, I was so amazed with my first podcast that there were 84 people that had listened to it. I mean, they may have only listened to, hi, my name's Rowena, but they've actually taken the time. And for me, I was so amazed. There was actually one lady who messaged me, said she listened to it 3 times.
No way.
One, I was impressed that she listened to it 1 hour and 40 minutes.
Did you know the lady?
Yeah, I did, but she's in the UK. I haven't seen her for like 8-9 years. Yeah, I think about that long. So, but it was still good. And you'll get
people months down the line that'll message you about that same episode. Yeah. Where you've forgotten about it. You've moved on. You've released 20, 30, 40 episodes by then. But someone will stumble across your podcast at that time, and that episode will have such an impact on them. Because I see it now. I've had people writing to me about episodes that I released a long time ago. Yeah. That now, when I look back critically, I'm like, that wasn't a very good episode.
Honestly, I am Max's biggest fan, by the way. I'm just going to say that. I've even quoted Max in my Instagram.
Yeah, I was very flattered. I think that's going on my grave.
But you honestly wouldn't tell. I guess that's the thing as well, that we're so critical about our own content. So when we're looking back, it makes us, you know, it's like when you've seen yourself as a kid on a performance somewhere or anything like that, and you're like cringing, but no one else sees. They just see the kid doing a performance, things like that.
Yeah,
and I think
it's
same with our content,
almost,
isn't it?
how critical you're going to be towards it. So if you're going to start it, you've got to just put it out there and move past that.
Yeah.
Because beyond criticism, what I've found is that most people actually just don't care about your life. They don't care what you're doing.
No. Which is a blessing in so many ways, right? Yeah.
It is. We think people are going to judge us, they're going to say negative things, but ultimately, no one cares about your life. It's only you.
So true.
And then you're going to have X amount of people, a very small percentage, even if you think macro, I think like 10, 20,000 people love your content. That's still literally no one on this planet.
No, exactly.
So most people do not care about your life. So that's quite liberating once you approach it that way.
No, exactly. And I know you said that you just started overnight. But what made you want to start it? What made you want to spread it? I know you said it before on one of your podcasts about it being like your form of activism, being in the Middle East. But was there a reason you chose podcast? I know you like YouTube, but was there a reason you chose that method or that?
I mean, I've been listening to a lot of podcasts, and I've been wanting to do something, get involved. Obviously, the main focus of my podcast is veganism.
Yes.
I bring a lot of vegan guests. We talk a lot about activism and all this kind of stuff. But ultimately, I wanted to empower and inspire people.
Yeah.
And
which
veganism,
you do, I think you do. No.
I hope so. I try to. My parents like it. So. When I see the impact that my podcast has had on the people close to me, like my parents and my family, that's what's important to me, and that's what's really inspires me to keep on going.
Were they on your YouTube recently, or did I get that wrong? Were they on like one of your vlogs?
That's my grandparents. Yeah, I was doing mini vlogs on TikTok.
So I just saw something like that.
Yeah, I've been on TikTok recently. So.
Yes, and I saw because your account was frozen.
Yeah, my Instagram got blocked. So
which is a bit
I don't know.
shame.
Someone obviously reported my content, which I don't know why, and I'm still trying to.
Too funny.
Probably, yeah. Someone got upset, or maybe they did it by mistake, and it just takes Instagram a really long time to think about it.
And I know you always ask all your guests, why did you become vegan? Well, I feel like it's your chance. Tell us, why did you?
Well, yeah, I get to be put on the spotlight.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's the thing. Like for me, I initially did it for purely selfish reasons because it was almost 3 years ago. I'd put on a lot of weight. I was feeling tired, and I just generally felt very blah about life. And a friend of mine was vegan at the time, Eric, who I started the podcast with.
Yeah.
And I was always making fun of him, like,
Swedish Eric.
Yeah. And I was always making a lot of fun of him about his choices and what you eat, etc. And then I do consider myself to be an open-minded person, so I was like, I'll look into it, I'll give it a try. I was like, okay, I'll give it a try for 2 weeks, and I felt so much better in 2 weeks. I think mainly it's just because I stopped eating cheese. That was the biggest impact. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. But once I went vegan, I didn't do it overnight. It took me 6 months to do it. I cut out red meat, then I cut out white meat, then I cut out fish, eggs, and then the last month I cut out dairy. So I did it over a process of time. I don't necessarily recommend that process. It doesn't work for everyone, but that's what works for me.
It does work for some people, right? And I think that's the thing. It's not always going to be like for me. I actually was vegan for 1 month because of the health thing. And actually, when I talk about the health thing, I think it was also because I was literally going through a stage of eating like family packs of mint straws and was it cheese and Marmite Starbucks paninis. So I feel like to some extent any kind of change is going to be great. But I felt going with the vegan lifestyle, especially 9 years ago, that you had to cook your own food and you had to eat whole food. So it's a different thing. But because initially I did it for health, after 1 month I didn't know about the animals, and I actually switched to a Dukan diet, which is literally all animal products and things like that.
That's kind of like the old keto kind of thing.
And I did it for like 1 week, and I remember reading this recently that if you were just following something for health, you will always be kind of like just following trends. Yeah. Because there's always new science or new information about why the carnivore diet now is great, or why this. Like you can find articles, I think, to support quite a lot of these kind of
I mean,
trends.
I'm doing a 2-day orange juice fast, and I was looking into it, and you can see the negative and the positive.
Yes, but you can find what you want to, right?
On the internet, you can find the positive and negative.
And then I think some of it as well is, so when you're doing the fast, for example, some of it might be science that you've researched, but some of it's placebo effect as well, that you feel great. But I don't feel amazing. I mean, I'm not going to say I feel great about it. I mean, I feel good. You're still here though, and you're not grumpy. We were worried when we might so much features and cake. Yeah, well, I might just have some anyway. Yes. No, Christine.
Christine won't be happy for you. No cake.
But then after doing that, then it was when I watched Earthlings. Actually, I never watched Earthlings. I watched 20 Minutes Earthlings.
I think that's most people. That's being.
I actually watched just the pet bit, so I don't even know how that in my head related to things I ate. But it was enough for me to then make a permanent change. So I do feel that everyone's journey to veganism is going to be really, really different. with that kind of concept.
Yeah, and it's always, there's the ideal of you want people to go vegan now, you want people to go vegan on the spot, but then there's the reality of that you want people to stay vegan. And like you said, the health aspects, you would just follow trends because everything changes, there's new science. But then when you bring in an environmental and an ethical aspect to it, you can't really deny that. No, I mean, obviously people do deny climate change. There are some people out there. Some people still consider that the Earth is flat.
I don't know if you saw, I actually wrote on this podcast that came out, Not Just Girl Talk, I think it's something like this, but it was, it sounds like something Max would listen to.
Definitely.
But there was one of the personal trainers here in Dubai, and she had been vegan for a while, and then she changed pretty much to carnivore diet. And what she was talking about also on it was that there's lots of reasons for the environment why you shouldn't be vegan.
Okay.
And she was talking about the soil being changed or something like that. Yeah. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is that she still found reasons why for the environment, even though there's so much out there.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
That I guess that's what I mean. You can literally find something or an excuse not to do something or a reason why, just to make you feel better about these kind of things within reason. But I think even though she had gone back to eating meat for health reasons, I think initially she couldn't deny that the most moral thing is to not eat animals.
Yeah, I
mean, because it's a moral thing, right?
Even if you go back on the environmental aspect, I see the point of if you were to go outside and say hunt a deer, and kill it with a spear, technically your environmental aspect would be lower than if you were to go to a supermarket and buy a wrapped soy burger that had been shipped from God knows where.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you're looking at it from a carbon footprint and then the plastic involved, all that stuff, maybe. But then there's the reality of the world that we live in, who goes and hunts deer, and then why would you? If you can hunt your deer, then technically you can grow your own vegetables as well. If you're in that ideal world, you can take it so far. And
I think one thing I've tried to do recently, I don't know if you've ever done this, but I think having been vegan for quite a long time, sometimes you do start questioning things, not in terms of the vegan lifestyle, but you hear new science, for example, and sometimes it can make you think, oh, okay, are you sure I'm doing the right thing for my family? I think it becomes a little bit on a bigger scale when it's not just about you.
Yeah,
you're looking at your kids, so you're thinking, okay, there's a lot of science about maybe they're not getting this or this or this. So sometimes you have to go, you get all this information in, and then I think the best thing to do with it is to, in some way, shut off from it, go a little bit micro and see how your family is doing, or see how there's not they're thriving, they're running around.
You'd never compromise your family's health, would you?
But I feel that sometimes that's what's happened with this ex-vegan movement in YouTube a few years ago. Did you see they had this? I think sometimes it's all this information comes overwhelming. People start going back to eating meat and things like that, and then I think it can sometimes make people stutter or falter around it. And I think that is when you've just got to really look at yourself and say, look, I'm doing really well on this plan. I'm doing well on things like that. So,
and that's what's terrifying and great at the same time about all of the famous influencers becoming vegan. It's great because it inspires other people to, but at the same time it's worrying because
how long are they going to do it for?
They're doing it because it's cool, and are they becoming vegan or are they just following a plant-based diet? There's two different aspects to it, and it does kind of worry me that if, let's say, the 10-15 influencers that have transitioned towards a plant-based diet, then they're like, well, actually this doesn't work for me, and then the impact that's going to have on animals in the world, and then the idea of veganism is going to be extremely negative.
What would you say to someone if they came to you with that kind of concept where they had read an article or something like that's pretty anti-vegan propaganda, like for example the backlash from the Game Changers at the moment? This is pretty negative. I'm going down negative route.
There was a lot of backlash,
but I do feel like this needs to be spoken about, because I do feel there's quite a lot where there's huge negativity around these things, and it's easy for us to kind of just stay positive but brush it under the carpet. And I think it has the potential, unfortunately, to make people switch back from having a vegan lifestyle to going back to eating meat if they're new, or if they're not unsure if they're going through transition.
I mean, for me, I always ask people who tell me I was vegan for a month, I was vegan for a year, I was vegan for 2 years. My question to them is always, why did you become vegan in the first place? What initially made you want to go vegan? And most of the time,
it's health or something like
that. It can be health or something. And then if it's that, and then I'm like, why did you stop being vegan? What was it? Where were the challenges? What would stop you from going back? And a lot of people, if they say to you, oh, because I felt weak, ultimately it's because they're doing it wrong. I mean, you can easily do the diet wrong.
Yeah, because it's a lifestyle, and I think that's the thing we forget, that a vegan lifestyle is not, it's not like you are just eating, every vegan eats chia pudding for breakfast. Yeah, exactly. It's not the case, is it?
Just removing all animal products from your diet will not make you healthy.
Yeah.
You have to rethink how you approach food.
And I love how you explain it normally, which is like, it's just removing four dead animals from your...
It's a very simple thing to do, isn't it?
But kind of, that is pretty much what it is. It's not as complicated as it seems. It's just that we've been so used to using these, or thinking of them as luxury items. You know, they are actual physical sentient beings.
Definitely, it's ingrained within us. And as soon as you bring in the animal aspect of it, I mean, everyone loves at least one type of animal, be that dogs, be that reptiles, be that anything. Someone relates and sees that these do have families, these do feel.
Yeah.
And for me, it all boils always down to the same point: if it's not necessary, why do we do it?
Yeah, I honestly think that's a key message.
Yeah.
And I think also this thing, like we were talking about the podcast with the perfectionism, like you said, it took you 6 months to transition.
Yeah.
I've had clients who, in their 50s, in their 60s, even my mum, she's vegan now, but it took her a long time. It's going to sound really, really silly, but just to change her milk in her coffee. So everything else she was doing is vegan, but she just couldn't let go of this one thing. And then she found oat milk. It was like a saviour. Oat milk.
Those are popular.
But that was just one thing. And I think if, however, people had been like, well, you're not really vegan, or you're not really doing this because you've taken so long, maybe she wouldn't have ever switched that milk, and now she's fully vegan, that everything in her lifestyle, you know.
I mean, it is very complicated when you approach it like that, because if you look from a health perspective, environmental perspective, she's doing an amazing job, and then you don't know everything else within someone's lifestyle. Like, you know, it just explodes into a whole debate that can go on for years. But then when you bring in, obviously, the animal aspect, how much animal exploitation is
for that
is
milk.
acceptable. You know, that's the thing. But then would it be the right thing to do to go and spit on her for drinking that milk in her coffee every day? Whereas, I don't know, it's a really tough line of thought to go down.
And I know you travel loads.
Yeah.
What have you found the most difficult part of being a vegan with travelling, or you haven't found any difficulties at all?
Russia was really hard.
Was it?
Yeah. First of all, language barrier.
Yes. Did you have to write little signs and things like that? Or?
Yeah, I mean, thank God for technology. You know, Google Translate and on all those apps, you can read the back of.
Just hope.
Hope something. And it was really tough, because even when they understood me, they're like, "Why would you want to eat that? Why would you want to not eat meat? Why would you want to not eat cheese?" And I find the further north that I go, the harder it becomes. And surprisingly, I thought countries in Asia would be hard, like China or Japan, but they actually have a huge plant-based cuisine, at least in their culture.
Their staple.
Yeah.
Okay.
From, for example, Buddhist
surprised
culture.
me like China, but I saw your episode.
Yeah, and I was really surprised about how easy it was to eat vegan in China.
Yeah.
Because we always have these ideas.
They literally eat, well, most of them eat a lot of byproducts as well, and I don't know, they eat every part of the animals. Or
it's true.
They eat everything, you know.
Yeah, I mean, monkeys' brains and this. I mean,
any animal is not gross.
Yeah.
That just shows you how funny it is, isn't it? That we take these parts of an animal, we just couldn't think why you'd want to eat a monkey brain and chicken feet, but actually that's the whole thing, isn't it? Is that we've been a bit blinded to the full aspect, or the full idea of eating any animal.
Yeah, definitely. We kind of see that
it's completely normal to be a cow. Yeah,
it's completely normal to drink the milk from its breast, but you wouldn't do that from a dog. Or it's totally normal for you to eat, I don't know, the leg of a lamb, but you wouldn't eat the leg of a cat. You know, why not?
And Max, are you going around at the moment? Because I know you do all your podcasts and you travel a lot and you meet lots of people, but is this your full-time job, or do you do something else as well on the side? Because I know you don't make money from this.
No, I don't.
But I don't know if people are just feeding you cake.
Well, I do get a lot of perks from this, of food and all this kind of stuff. That's the greatest thing. It's people are always throwing food at me, which is great. But no, it doesn't pay me.
When you're flying, you get to eat their vegan food, or you bring your own food on?
Most of the time I bring my own food, because airplane food is difficult to digest at the best of times, vegan or non-vegan. But then
no matter how great the airline is.
Yeah, even the vegan food is generally it's not that great, and it's always very repetitive anyway. So I try to bring my own food, or I just won't actually eat during the flights. It's trying not
fasting.
So yeah. No,
do you do the fasting? Have you got into that?
No,
not really.
I mean, I saw this really funny thing, which I probably end up doing it anyway, really, if you think about it, because this intermittent fasting has become quite a big thing now. But I just wake up late. So technically I skip breakfast and I already do intermittent fasting. So
you're more of a night owl?
Yeah, definitely. I'm not a morning person at all. Like this morning when they delivered my juices for my juice fast at 7 o'clock, I was like, oh.
We actually always laugh because my hubby is definitely night owl and I am definitely an early morning person. So we like combination. But it's great if you have kids because if they wake up at night and you have someone there for the kids. If you wake up in the morning, they're right.
Just like cross over around 5 p.m.
Yeah, exactly. 5 p.m. I think it's more like 5 a.m. Cool.
Yeah.
And so when you've been flying and things like that, obviously you haven't had any trouble with that, with the food and aspects, etc. And how are you meeting the people that you have the interview with? So you're just going on to social media?
Yeah, literally. I'll look where I'm going. I'll go hashtag Sydney or hashtag vegans of Sydney, hashtag vegans of Beijing, hashtag vegans of Nairobi, or wherever I'll be flying to. I'll have a look and see who's there, see what kind of interesting things people are doing in that place, and then I'll message them. And I mean, most people are very much willing to appear on a podcast. That's honestly one of the greatest things that I've found out having a podcast, which I didn't plan originally, was the network that it creates for you. Because you get to meet people that if you're like, hey, I'm coming to this country, do you want to meet up? People wouldn't be like,
yes.
It'd be weird.
I think they freak out a little bit about it, don't they?
Yeah, if you're like,
why do you want to meet me?
Yeah.
What's the reason?
If you say, I have a podcast, I want to talk about X, Y, Z with you, most people are more willing then to meet you and to welcome you into their homes or whatever. Because like, I'm in your home, you know. Just
yes, exactly.
I've been to people's homes in Kenya, in New York, just through the podcast. And that network that you create with people is incredible. And you don't realise that until you actually start it and you start meeting so many interesting people.
And outside of the veganism, because I guess in some ways it's a personal development or growth for you, just switching to a vegan lifestyle. It's probably opened your eyes up to a lot of other things. I know you're really into the environment. I recently did the stopping using single-use cups.
Great.
So I think I'm going to say this year, but probably since April when I started it, I've used 2, which I know is still unexcusable, but I feel like in a way, I literally used to be every day, drive to Costa, get my or Starbucks wherever I am, grab my coffee. Yeah. But what other kind of aspects have you changed in your lifestyle or your thought processes since this kind of change to a vegan lifestyle? Has it influenced you in any other way?
Yeah, hugely. I mean, I think the generation of, we don't look for material wealth, we don't look for careers, we don't look for, I don't know, what our parents were looking for, our grandparents were looking for. Now we're looking for a purpose. We're looking to have an impact. We're looking to make a difference. And for me, I found that through veganism, and beyond the word veganism, because veganism is very broad to me, through the environment, through animal rights, and through health, that's really given me a purpose and things to focus on, seeing that I can have a positive impact on other people. And that's ultimately what I want to do, is to help inspire people to make a positive change in their life, be that on the environmental aspect side. Obviously, I want everyone to become vegan. Like, there's no doubt, I have no shame in saying that. Realistically, do I think that will happen? Probably not. No. But if I can get people to make some form of positive change and to leave the world a better place than when I came here, then for me, that's a win. Yeah, and it has changed so much. It's so different. Yeah. I just went to Marks & Spencer's before and saw they have vegan mince pies. Yeah. Just little things like that. They excite me so much because, when I first started to become vegan, there was nothing. Yeah, I mean, a few 9 years ago, it's a completely different ball game. I mean, now everywhere. For me, now there's no excuse. In fact, when Max arrived, I just had donuts. I know. I was so jealous. I was thinking, I'm going to be drinking orange juice and you're going to be eating donuts. I think I literally got 20 mini donuts and 6 big donuts had just arrived at the house. Being the great personal trainer that I am. Well, yeah, that's exactly what you need. But I know as well in your podcast you've been speaking to people about, do they identify with the label veganism? Yeah. I've been thinking about this quite a lot. But for me, I actually feel it's still a very positive thing. And the example I have is with my husband, for example. So he considers himself vegan. Okay. But he is 100% vegan with his diet, so his plant-based diet. And there are still some room for improvement in other aspects of his life, maybe with his clothing choices, things like that, which would technically not make him vegan, it would make him plant-based. But I think because he identifies with that, it's a constant moral choice to make better choices. Does that make sense? But isn't that the definition of veganism, is doing the best you can? But I feel like if he didn't identify with being a vegan,
and he was just plant-based eating, I think it's very easy for you to, not very easy, but morally to not keep up to that standard of the word veganism. Do you see what I mean?
I see what you mean, but ultimately if we push the word vegan to the extreme, that would mean there'd be no cruelty at all.
Which is almost impossible.
You have an impact on the environment.
Yeah.
The most vegan thing you can do is kill yourself.
Yeah.
Literally. I mean, it's a sad, pessimistic thing to say.
Use your body in the soil.
Exactly, yeah. feed the soil. But I mean, it's a tough one because I identify to the word vegan. It's just that...
Like if I was to ask you, or would someone ask you, would you say, oh, I am vegan, or would you be...
No, I'll say I'm vegan,
yes.
100%. And then, obviously, there's a lot of different ways that people relate to it or define to it, and it's very easy to point fingers at vegans because we're not perfect.
Yes. Because
we've put this idea of vegan as perfection, and it's impossible to reach that.
No.
So
and I agree with that 100%.
Whenever you fall short, people are going to tell you straight away, you're not vegan because you drove to get a coffee instead of walking, or you flew to God knows where instead of taking the train.
Yeah.
But it's not feasible in the world that we live in to be zero impact on anything. I just encourage people to do the best you can. The diet one is what we focus on because it is the easiest, and that's where the biggest impact is.
And we eat every day. Well,
most of us 3 times a day. Well, unless you're on an orange juice fast, which I am, and I keep focusing on that now. I've got orange socks on as well. Keep focusing on food, and
You should wear an orange t-shirt.
Yeah, I just feel like...
You've got your orange juice here, actually.
Yeah, I do have it, actually.
You have it?
I have to have some in a minute. I'm supposed to be drinking 250 millilitres every hour.
Every hour?
Yeah.
Wow, so how many juices do you get a day?
3 litres of orange juice.
3 litres. I probably could do that, but alongside food. Do you know, I have done fasting before.
Yeah.
I did a 6-day water fast in the summer. Just an experiment. I don't actually necessarily promote these things, but I think if you're happy to do it on your own, and it's not like a big promotion thing, but it was a very interesting challenge, and actually I think it does make you realise that you can survive without food.
For me, it's pure curiosity. Like I don't see it as it's going to make me look better, or it's going to give me abs, or it's going to make me lose weight. I'm not doing it for that purpose. The reason I'm doing this 2-day juice fast is because I'm curious to see what it's like, and the fact that I don't think ever in my life have I gone 2 days without eating food.
No. That was for me. I actually didn't tell anyone because I was a little bit worried. You start getting people, you should eat and this kind of thing, and but it was the most interesting thing was to realise that you can go without breakfast, lunch, dinner for a couple of days, and actually nothing happens to you. So it's interesting.
But I'm starting to question everything now through veganism. You start to put everything into perspective.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at with all of it, because it doesn't it's like a rippling effect,
right?
Yeah,
and that's even the same with the juicing thing. You're like, but you need to eat, you need to have this. But you realise it's become so automatic to eat, actually. Because yesterday I was driving around, I went to see my friend in the Dubai Mall, and he owns a restaurant, so I'm like, I'll just have something to eat, just because that's what you do.
Which restaurant?
Gypsy
one, yeah, okay.
And then it's like, let's have a coffee. No, I can't have coffee. You're just so used
how much do you do automatic? I remember I used to get through a stage where, this was years ago, where I would drive, get petrol, go get Oreos or something like this from the the garage, just because in England you go in and pay.
Yeah.
I don't know if you still do. Do you still pay like that?
I don't know.
I can't remember.
I don't even know how to fill up my car.
I know. But I think you're meant to go in and pay after you filled up your car. Yeah. And I just always find myself in the Oreo aisle, and it's just wherever you are, just get one of them. And I think it's the thing, you do it once, twice, and then before you know it, it's almost impossible, it's impossible to not get a coffee from the thing, and you end up having this coffee and you're like, I don't even know if I like it, because you're just not questioning yourself about it.
You just don't think twice about doing these things, and it gets more and more ingrained in you. And it's like every form of addiction as well.
Yes.
It's such a habit to you. And as soon as you realise that it's a habit, it's just something you're doing because you've always done it, it's so easy to break out of it.
Yeah.
And you can relate that to pretty much everything.
I listen to this lady called Carolyn Mace, I don't know if you've heard of her, but she has audiobooks.
Okay. I think you mentioned her in the first episode, didn't you?
But she's actually really funny, that's why. I love those kind of people question you, but you really have a good laugh at yourself as you're driving around. But one thing she talks about is with addiction, that it's like a battle between your brain and your heart. So like it's a bit like when you're a kid and you want something now and it's not rational. You're like, I need this toy now. It's just ridiculous. You don't need this toy now. But it's the same with any addiction. It's almost like you having a little child tantrum that you need something, but your mind knows it's ridiculous because you don't actually rationally need 20 cigarettes or something like this, but your body feels like, you and your little kid inside of you is like, no, but I need it now.
I've taken that approach to shopping and buying stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't buy much stuff anyway. I consider myself to be quite minimalist, but you still manage to accumulate so much stuff.
Yeah.
And I do have a weak spot for cameras, electronics, and all this stuff. Like, every time I see something,
thank God you do.
I'm like, oh, a drone, oh, this could be useful, this drone thing, or this stabilizer.
But we all have something. Yeah. We're addictive beings, I think, with anything like this.
But now I tell myself, okay, I want this. I don't necessarily need it, but I'm going to take 3 days. And if in 3 days I still think that I want it and I need it, then I'll buy it.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Not on the spot.
Did you follow the Minimalists ever?
No, the two guys. Yeah, I have listened to them.
In their podcasts, I used to love them so much, but because I'm also quite an all or nothing person, I started listening to them, and I was doing their 45-day challenge, the Minimalist challenge, where basically every day you take something you don't need and you donate it, or you give it away, or things like that. Which the thing is, I find it really easy. So I would be finding things in our house, donating it, and my husband would be, "Do you know where we put such and such?"
It's not even yours to give away.
Oh, we don't really need it. It's, it's gone in my minimalist pile. But
I'm moving at the moment as well, so I'm kind of going through that. Like I'm clearing away a lot of stuff, and it's true that.
But even your clothes, isn't it? You think about people who've got these huge wardrobes. But you probably pick 4 outfits that you like to wear constantly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And and the other stuff you've worn once or you didn't really.
And especially now, I'm trying to move towards a more sustainable, more eco-friendly, and responsible shopping wardrobe as well. Because I have, for example, I had leather shoes, I had leather belts. What did you
do? Donate them?
I donated them. Yeah.
Somewhere here or. No?
Yeah, in Dubai. I mean, there's loads of places they come pick them up, or you can put them in the donation boxes. They're all over the.
So I saw there's a place in Sakine called Retold, but I think it's only female fashion.
Oh, maybe.
And that's actually a really cool concept. You can go and you can actually sell your clothes if you want, or you can donate them. But everything there then it's a bit like a charity shop, but for well looked after pieces, so people can literally buy them again.
Okay.
But the idea is it's meant to be more of a sustainable fashion kind of thing, which I guess it is. The fact that it's just at least given a second home.
Yeah, I mean, I know some people, you walk into their apartments and the closets of clothes, they have their rooms just for clothes.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's like, how many clothes do you wear?
No, exactly. Yeah. And that's the thing, and you do just pick your favourites all the time.
Literally, yeah. I mean, I probably have 4 t-shirts that I wear. Maybe I've got 2 pairs of jeans. And
I know, I always laugh, I'm just literally like in gym kit, mummy kit all the time.
Active wear.
Active wear, that's that the posh name? Active
that's what
wear.
we call it,
Or gym kit. What else did you question after changing to veganism? So obviously the fashion side of things, anything else that's like come to mind that you've realised what habits you were doing that are just
recently
bonkers almost?
Yeah, I mean, I do kind of feel a bit paranoid now,
almost.
I just see new stuff. I mean, recently I'm even questioning like religion as well. Okay. I'm not a religious person, but then as I see that most of the things in our lives, it's due to conditioning, it's due to how you're brought up and the people that surround you, and then you form an opinion based on that. It's like, is this my opinion, or is it just the opinion that society is giving me through the media and then through the people that have surrounded me?
Like tribal patterns, right?
Yeah.
It's like however into whatever tribe you were born into, you inherit
pretty
thought
much.
Process and things
so
like that.
Now I'm trying to formulate my own opinions, even on religion. So at the moment I'm reading the Quran, I'm going to read the Bible. I mean, I read the Bible a long time ago. But just because I want to form my own critical opinion, not because I'm searching for particularly spirituality, maybe I'll find it. You never know. I'm trying to stay very open-minded towards everything these days.
And and all these religious texts or books, they all have some sort of moral meaning or thought process. So I think even if you don't suddenly take on that religion or it becomes part of you, I think in all of them they have teachings for all of us. This grounding and things.
Because I realised how much I resented people for judging, say, veganism without knowing anything about it. But then I'll judge
someone else,
Islam, without actually knowing what it's about, or Christianity without really knowing what it's about, without reading the book, for example.
Yeah, and I think cultural understanding comes from that.
Yeah, exactly.
Compassion and things like that. That you've taken some of the texts, you read it, you take the time to understand it. At least then, if it's not your belief. You can see where someone else is coming from, or you can, reach them about other subjects and things like that. Because I know it becomes quite a big thing, doesn't it, with religion and veganism sometimes anyway. And there is quite a lot in all of the religious texts that promote being compassionate.
There's a lot of good stuff, I mean, obviously I see it from a very vegan angle. So as soon as there's something that can relate, I'm like, I pick up on this, I pick up on that. I mean, I was reading part of the Quran, and it was talking about, I gave you these rice, beans, and lentils and stuff to feed you. It was in, like, it's obviously not the exact words that it says, but pretty much there were no meat-based products in that, you know, it was no, like, I gave you roast turkey, bacon, and this, you know, so I'm just reading what I see, and I find it very interesting, and it's funny how when for example, I tell my friends, like, oh, I'm reading the Quran, they get more defensive, the ones that aren't religious, than if I tell for someone else who may be religious and believes something else. They're going to be more accepting. So even if a lot of us consider us atheists, we're more open-minded, sometimes I find we're the quickest ones to judge without knowledge.
Oh, 100%, because you do become defensive of anything that you feel threatens your thought process or the way that you live your life.
Yeah.
And if you don't really have understanding of something, I think you become even more defensive of that, because you really just don't have that understanding, or you haven't taken that time to connect with that other person on their level.
Yeah.
And I think that's, you know, that's really important. And like you say, even that goes to generations before us, where they do have these kind of tribal patterns. And I think part of the thing where you get the older generation who generally don't want to make changes to veganism is because we don't really connect with them on the same level. And I think it is important to take time to kind of listen to where they're coming from, which is, most times they didn't have the luxury to make these changes, because, you know, they've come from a position maybe of having vegan food, but they saw the non-vegan items as luxury. Definitely. And that's in their mind, so why would they want to take that away? And
like you said, no one takes the time to update the older generation, in a sense. They don't know how to use technology.
No.
We've had it.
Probably more than I do.
Yeah, you're a bad example.
Bad example.
But I mean, most of us know how to use the internet, knows how to gain your own research and critical knowledge. The only knowledge they were getting was from mainstream media, which cannot be biased in a certain way.
No, of course.
So, and even if you look at the workforce as well, like at the moment, I want to do a lot of episodes with elderly people, not necessarily about veganism, but just about life as well, because ultimately the question to everything goes back to that question, like, why are we here? What are we doing on this planet? Like, what is my purpose on Earth? What should I be wasting my time with? Is it worth me worrying about how many people are listening to this podcast?
Yes.
Is it worth me worrying about who cares about what I say or what I'm wearing? What really matters? And I find talking to elderly people, you can really learn so much from them.
Yeah.
And we just put them like, okay, you're old now, go die.
That's quite extreme. I see what you mean. But you know, I actually saw this little clip about, I think a few people who were over 100, I think they were like 105 or something. So they were asking, you know, what do you think, I guess, has made you live this long? Or I think it wasn't even that, it was more like, tell us, you know, your secrets to life, basically, why are you so happy? And I remember one of them was so sweet, and he was like, basically, he's never failed. He said he's never failed. If his cake flops, it just turns into a pudding. And I thought it was such a great outlook that, you know, there's not really any failing. We think of like this black and white of when something doesn't go well, it's failing. But really, you can kind of mould it into something else or another learning experience, and it just becomes part of a life rather than being a disaster.
And I'm a firm believer that you only fail when you give up.
Yeah.
As long as you keep on trying, you're still in that process. Mm-hmm. And I think the biggest thing is to enjoy that process regardless of what you're doing. Even if it comes to, like we were talking about earlier, starting a podcast. You're going to put out some episodes. Not many people are going to listen to those first episodes. You don't know if it's going to be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. You look at the big podcasts, they've released hundreds of episodes. Yeah. Like one of the biggest ones, obviously people talking about Joe Rogan's at the moment because he had from the Game Change.
Did you watch that? Did you watch it?
So originally there was an episode of the podcast when Joe Rogan brought on...
in general he's so anti-vegan, right?
He is very anti-vegan. And he brought on this Chris Kresser the first time
really bad,
to debunk Game Changers. Yes. And they did that in the first episode. And then James Wilkes said, well, give me a chance to, you know, give my opinion because I'm the one who directed the thing. So then they brought Chris Kresser back with James Wilkes. And then for 4 hours... James Wilkes just kind of went through all the points that they brought up and just broke it down. And then Joe Rogan even mentioned that he was considering to remove the initial episode where they debunked it.
Wow, that's powerful.
And even he admitted that it isn't necessary to eat meat.
Really?
Yeah, in that episode. Yeah.
I'm shocked by that because I feel like so many of his episodes before have been really anti-vegan. Yeah. But he obviously is quite open-minded then to make that kind of... It's a big thing to make a change like that in your...
Yeah.
in your podcast and things like that.
I mean, especially as like he's released like 1,800 episodes and he has a huge following. It's one of the biggest podcasts out there. For him to kind of go back on that, I mean, good.
Yeah, I know a lot of people listen to him and they listen to Gary Vee. I know you love Gary Vee.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Gary Vee. I do listen to him quite a lot. He does entertain me.
He's funny, hey?
Yeah, and he does say a lot of very important stuff, and especially the whole idea of moving past people's judgment and the idea that people have on you and perception and all that stuff. I think it's very important that you do kind of listen to other content as well.
Yeah.
Vegan, non-vegan, or if whatever is not related to what you're doing, to kind of open that idea as well and to see a wider spectrum than just tunnel vision of what you're doing right now.
True. And actually, it's one thing I love about your podcast is that every guest you brought on seems to have a... So even though their main thing is veganism, they all seem to have a slightly different approach or feeling around the topic. Like, they, you know, I think it was Sol Eubank.
Seb. The alkaline.
There you go.
There we go.
But he had quite a different approach. There was a few approaches with him in Sudan, but we've got the right country.
It was in Sudan, yeah.
Yes, good.
Yeah.
And he was talking about how, even though he doesn't really relate with the label of veganism, right? No. But he does eat plant-based diet. But he was talking about that he felt that he was comfortable eating animals in Sudan to some extent.
Yeah.
And I think he came from this whole different kind of thought process, which I think some other people possibly do with like the eggs in their back garden and this kind of concept.
Yeah, that's the pure health kind of aspect, isn't it? It's a plant-based, it's following a plant-based diet. It's doing it because that meat is clean. So then...
But it was interesting that you have all these people coming at it from a different point. And one thing I can really relate to, which is sometimes when you have a difficult question or difficult scenario, can really feel you sort of thinking about how to answer that, because probably you're not as being a full vegan for animals and the plants.
Vegan for the plants, yeah.
But I could see you sort of trying to think about how you can give an answer back to something like that. How do you deal with those situations where you don't quite agree with someone necessarily, you know, even though maybe you respect them as a person?
Yeah, I mean, obviously on my podcast I try to bring on all different types of guests. Most of them are vegan, plant-based, but I try to show that it's accessible to everyone. I consider, obviously I don't agree with him on that aspect of it.
I could tell, because I could feel your little pause.
I stay quite...
Because you've been trying to be respectful,
yeah, right? Of course. And the thing is, I'd rather focus on what we do agree on.
Yeah, which is so much.
Yeah, and creating a good episode that could inspire the people to try a plant-based diet. If they just see two people fighting over a goat in Sudan, they're going to be like, these people are crazy. I mean, no offence to the goat in Sudan.
I love that though, because everyone thinks vegans are crazy.
Yeah, and that's why in my mind I'm like, okay, well, I don't agree on that. It's an opinion. He's following a plant-based diet, that's fine. But then there was so much great stuff in that episode that I thought was super inspiring, and a lot of people have listened to it, and I'm sure they've made a positive change. So when it comes to that argument, for me, like, okay, if these people in Sudan, they have no money, all they have is those goats.
Yeah.
It's survival.
So who are we to judge in a way, a privileged position to, you know, make a judgment? I listen to the Unnatural Vegan a lot. Have you watched any of her YouTube stuff?
I have watched some of her YouTube stuff, yeah.
I know she's not like generally a favourite among a lot of vegans, but I do like quite a lot of her approach in terms of things like how can sometimes for example, we would go to a fishing village somewhere, which they're quite, you know, not as affluent, and that was their whole thing of, you know, income was to bring fish in. Obviously, you know, we wouldn't want them to eat fish, but how can we be the ones to go in there when we've come from where we come from? You know, they're very rare scenarios.
But then it's like the Eskimos. People bring up the Eskimos. I'm like, are you an Eskimo? Do you live in the North Pole? No, you don't. We always deflect the problems onto other people. Like, okay, fishing village, that's their livelihood, that's what they've done for generations.
We're talking about such a minimal kind of person, like
these are villages of what, 500, 1,000 people?
Yeah.
Okay.
But the majority of us can make big changes.
Exactly.
Like that,
We can make huge changes. And even if you want to make those people change, I don't think the right way is to go there and start throwing fish at them. I don't think that's necessarily the way, or to stop them from what they're doing. We need to provide solutions.
Yes.
If you provide a solution to people that will bring them the same income, if not better, comfortable, better life for them. Because, I mean, fishing is not exactly an easy job to do either.
No.
I mean, out on the water it's dangerous, etc. If we provide solutions, obviously this is an ideal world, and anyone listening to this is going to be like, this guy's a bit loopy.
It's okay, we're all crazy.
Yeah. that would be the way to go, in my opinion, instead of pointing fingers and blaming people. And then the idea is also, like you said, to focus on ourselves.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to that, to be honest. It's like, we just need to always be making constant improvement with things that we're doing, whether that's, it's self-care. There's so many more things we can do. And there's one thing, and like I said, I noticed this year so much of myself that I've been doing, being a vegan, or living this vegan lifestyle for 9 years, but I was still using a single-use cup until recently. And just that small change makes a big difference on top of what I'm already doing. So it's never ending. Yeah,
I always say that add to it little by little.
Little by little. Yeah. So what's the next thing you're going to try? You're trying to add to what you're doing already? Is there something you're thinking about?
My current move, obviously, that's good. I'm getting rid of a lot of stuff. I'm donating a lot of stuff away and giving myself a bit more of a mindful space. What I need to focus on and what I'm aware I need to focus on is my own personal health, because that's something that I've always neglected, always have done. I always put myself second, and I don't know why. It's just something that I've done even through my personal life and relationships, is that I just give myself into everything that I do, and I don't focus on me, and it isn't sustainable. I've always hated to be considered selfish, but at the same time I think self-care is the start of anything.
Yeah, no, it's
and
really
it's taken me a long time to realise that.
Have you had burnout before or anything like that, or no?
Not really, but I've just been... It affects also the mental state as well, because I haven't been taking care of myself physically, like the way I eat, drink a lot. I smoked for a long time, still on and off with smoking, and even that, like, you're vegan but you smoke. Like, I hate myself, not animals. That's the idea behind it. And then even in the podcast, I always go full in onto everything, 100%, like full throttle. And then I reach a point where I physically can't do this anymore. So it's to find that balance within myself, because that's my goal for the coming years, months, decades.
Yeah, and I think that's really important. And I even liked the fact with the thing you're doing at the moment that you were talking about doing something in December rather than going crazy and doing it in January.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing. We can get so carried away with all this hectic craziness, around us, whether it's like from a really good place of giving to lots of people, or, just even being invited to lots of social gatherings and things like that, and not having the ability to pick and choose because you feel, if someone's invited you, you should be going out and doing all these things. Whereas we do need to take a little bit of time back to ourselves sometimes. Definitely. And just, replenish with that food. And in terms of with the health, where are you going to go then? I know, like, where are you going to find your resources to change where you're eating and things like that? Because I find that's quite important. Like we were discussing, that vegan lifestyle can be multitude of food, and it could be vegan keto, it could be high carb, low fat. Like, where are you going for your science around that, or you're just kind of going how you feel?
First of all, for the first time in my life, I want to do it step by step when it comes to that.
Well, it's worked for you before, like even going from not vegan to vegan, right?
But I don't know why with health I've always thought, you see the image like, I'm going to get abs. My goal is to get abs. My goal is to get massive biceps. Whereas if I set my goals shorter term, I want to clean out my diet. I want to eat whole food, plant-based diet, let's say 5 times a week, 5 days a week. Mm-hmm. And then the weekends I'll just binge like I usually do. Or cut back on alcohol, for example, or the smaller things. Start with the smaller steps. And fortunately, like I said earlier, the great thing about the podcast is the network that you create. So I have
loads of people you can reach out to.
Yeah, a lot of friends that are nutritionists, PTs, that...
Have you got any favourites that you go to for that kind of thing, or I'm not sure?
I haven't really...
It's more a thought and process at the moment.
Yeah, I haven't really put that into movement yet. And I think you can learn from anyone on anything. Mm-hmm. And that's why I'm a firm believer that when you talk, you just repeat what you already know. But when you listen, you might actually learn something.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. And I think that's why I enjoy doing my podcasts, is because I'm mostly on the listening side and you absorb what other people are saying. Whereas this is odd, I'm the one talking all the time.
I think I've done quite a fair bit of talking too.
Yeah. And so even when it comes to health, when it comes to nutrition, when it comes to fitness, I listen to all opinions, to all the different ones. Obviously, I'm not going to go on a keto diet because that's just stupid. But
I bet you anything you'd find studies to prove it's good.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that's the thing. Like I always talk about with people who, when they're changing to a plant-based or a vegan diet, maybe even it's worth getting your blood test done, things like that.
I always say that.
It's either getting your blood test done, just checking like where you are, because I think also sometimes you may feel like you have a deficiency from changing to a plant-based diet or vegan lifestyle, but actually you may have had that already. Yeah. And if you're going to go into that side of things, it's important. For you, you're already vegan, so it's not like you're going to go backwards, but it's still important to...
But still every year I try to do blood tests to kind of
Do you do them already?
Yeah, I need to do one actually now. Well, I did this month actually because it's been like over a year now. And to see where I am with everything. And mostly, miraculously, my levels are good.
Which is good.
Because I have no balance in my diet. And I don't know, maybe that's the secret to it, have no balance.
Well, what I think is quite interesting with the health side of things is that you can pretty much, say, change your diet to 75% whole foods diet. And that's where you get the initial gain of health.
Definitely.
Then the bits that you add on extra, so for example, if you were eating no fruit and then you had 4 servings of fruit a day, that's what's going to make you feel a lot better.
Orange juice.
Yes, exactly. Rather than adding another 2 servings on top of that. That's not going to make you feel a lot better than the initial thing. So I think if you can get 75% of your food and everything in line or in balance, then the odd treat and things like that, I think it's just it's part of life, and it's kind of it's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, we focus, say, on I'll cut out cake, or I'll cut out this, but if you do things gradually, if you do focus longer term and you make a full change to your lifestyle, rather than, like we were talking about earlier, the fad diet.
It's like you're saying, that instant gratification, isn't it? We just want what someone else has got now, even though they might have worked 10 years to get it.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's why they're sustainable with it, but we want it. And possibly you can reach it within a month, but you're not going to keep it. It's just not impossible. No,
when it comes to health, I mean, I do generally believe you need that long-term change.
Do you have any tips in terms of trying to apply delayed gratification in anything you do? Do you do any kind of...
For me, I try to enjoy the process. The focus is on the process. I don't even have a goal with my podcast. I don't even know what I want. Do I want it to become the world's biggest vegan podcast? Sounds great, sounds very pretentious. But that right now, that's not what I'm focusing on. I'm focusing on meeting amazing people, putting that together into a conversation, into a video, into audio format as well. Even though the focus is a lot more on audio, because not many people actually watch podcasts these days. And
I know you love YouTube, don't you, with it?
I don't know why I'm such a sucker for YouTube. I don't know, I kind of grew up with it, so I want it to work for me. It's a very selfish thing. Whereas the content that I put out isn't for YouTube, but I just put it there anyway because I can. It's free.
Do you get more people listening to your podcast?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. I mean, I put so much effort into video, and like 1/10 of the people.
And it's something you enjoy, like you were just saying about the process. You enjoy it,
that's
so even if it doesn't hit 1 billion people.
And then for me, actually having it video, it's useful for social media because then it gives you clips as well. Then you can use that on multiple platforms. So it's not just one block of content. You can divide it and use it. And that's the great thing about podcasts. You have such a huge amount of content. Let's say you can take maybe 5 or 10 clips from this and use them to then grow your podcast and promote your podcast, because you'll have things about different subjects that other people will be interested in. So you can put different hashtags, or you can put it into different groups, or onto different even social medias, because different social medias have different audiences.
What's your favourite platform?
Right now, I would have to say it has to be TikTok. I'm having a lot of fun on TikTok.
Are you enjoying it now?
Like TikTok.
Yeah.
I'm liking it now.
What's your new tip with TikTok? Just having fun, I guess, isn't it?
It literally, the only thing on TikTok that works is hold your phone, say something that people don't expect. Usually if you say wait till the end, because there's an algorithm in it that calculates how long people are watching.
Wow.
So the longer people are watching that video, the more it'll be pushed. And if they watch it a second time, then even more so. So if you do something a bit random as well.
How do you pick your songs to go with it? Because I find that's the most difficult thing.
Really
I'm like, I've done a video and I'm like, do I know? I only know 5 songs in my head at the moment. They're just playing round. I can't.
I just look at the top ones, and then that sounds okay.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I don't really think too much.
Because I'm trying to, be, thoughtful, and then you realise you put something from when you were a kid. No one knows what it is. It's terrible.
I mean, I have one video on TikTok that's been seen 22,000 times.
Wow. The outreach is incredible, isn't it?
And the thing is, it's actually just a video of...
is it the lion one?
No, it's Seb Alex, who's an animal liberation activist. It's just him running up and down with chickens.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I've seen this one, yeah.
And so I accelerated it and put the Benny Hill music to it. And so it's just him running up and down, these chickens like following him. And it took me like 2 seconds to make this video, and it's been seen 22,000 times. And I'm like, I put so much effort into so many other videos that 50 people have seen. And that's the beauty of it, of why we shouldn't be too critical of our own content, just to put it out there.
Because you don't know, do
you? No, let other people be the judge of it. I've
always been really shocked by that. Sometimes I'm like, why did that video get, so many views? Yeah. It's just pretty silly because it was, it didn't take me any thought. And then once where you've been, should I post this? Should I not post it? Because, it's a bit, you feel it's controversial and it's nothing at all. Yeah. And no one makes a comment about it.
It goes back to the beginning of the saying, no one cares.
No one cares.
Like, you can
so this is our main message for today. No one cares
just
about you.
Be free to do whatever you want because no one really cares about what you do. And then it's only by being authentic that you'll connect, I think, with an audience, that people will genuinely follow you. If you're just trying to please a crowd, to listen to one episode and listen to the next one and be like, this isn't really relatable. Whereas if you do have a common theme and you're always you, I try to remain as consistent as I can throughout my podcast with the same ideas and the same thoughts, because otherwise people who actually do listen to it on a weekly basis, they're going to be like, this guy is just trying to make his guests sound good or doesn't want to offend anyone. But it is a hard thing to do.
Yeah, so, I've got lots of learning.
Yeah.
But
I mean, if anyone, one of my top tips that I wish I'd done differently of when I started is, don't focus too much on the equipment, that's secondary, you'll get to that. But I always say to people, try to record 4 or 5 episodes in advance, so then you can start releasing.
My friend from Digital Who's.
Yeah.
Yeah, he told me exactly this. Yeah. What did I do? I posted one.
Yeah, I did the same as you.
In fact, you must be thinking, did she listen? No, because he literally said to me, record 5 or 6, so then if you miss a week or anything like that, you have, them all lined up. You can just take them out week by week. But I was so excited.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I'm like a little kid.
That's the thing. It's one thing to give advice, but I didn't even follow that advice. Generally, if you're passionate and you want to start a podcast, as soon as you record that episode, you're going to want to put it out there. You want to be like, listen to this, So yeah, there's so many. It's a great way, I think, of communication, because it's a great way to meet people. You have a human connection, which we lose today. And first of all, it's uninterrupted entertainment. No ads, even though people do have ads in the beginning.
Sponsored, right?
And some have them in the middle as well, which I find really annoying.
Yeah, I've had a few of those ones. There's a couple where it's like a 5-minute ad at the beginning.
Yeah, at the beginning I don't mind because it's free content.
But then I'm always trying to skip, but then you miss a bit.
Exactly, it's really hard to find that exact
point.
But I find podcast adverts must be really effective because you're so used to hearing that person's voice that when they're telling you about a product, I think you actually listen more than if it's some random ad.
So what I find is really interesting is I was always thinking, I couldn't, that people always have their goal sometimes to be sponsored, say on Instagram, but there's literally nothing apart from maybe chocolate that I think could sponsor me because I'm not really interested in, fashion. I'm not really interested in supplements. I'm not really interested. I think it would have to be a chocolate company. So I might sell myself chocolate.
Well, yeah, if you get a nice vegan chocolate brand.
Yeah. What's it called? Vigo, if you're watching.
Yeah, you should reach out to them. Yeah. Tell them.
So you'll find the health personal training sponsored by Vigo chocolate.
They'll give you like a discount code, ROWENA10.
ROWENA10, yeah.
I was so proud when I got my first discount code. It was
you did. What did you get? Plant Power?
Yeah, Plant Power for the meal plans.
Actually, they're quite good. Have you used their meal plan?
I've never actually done the meal plan, but I order food from them quite a lot because they do delivery as well.
Yeah, my hubby did their meal plan for a month. But actually, I thought it was quite good.
Yeah.
No, it's very, very good.
And I like Tom as well. And,
he's a nice guy because he was on your podcast, right? Yeah. I'm not going to ruin anyone else's name, but he was on there.
No, I think it was just the
kidney, wasn't it?
Yeah, kidney donor, crazy story.
Yeah.
The people that I've met and I've had on, the stories people have, like everyone has a story.
Everyone though, in anything in life, right? We all have stories to tell.
And everyone will tell you when you reach out to them about, do you want to appear on my podcast? Like, I don't know if I really have anything to say. Yeah. But everyone has a story to tell. And everyone can add you some value.
So we're going to wrap up in a minute, Max. But if you were going to add value to someone now, anyone listening, what would be your words of wisdom, Max's words of wisdom for anything that they want to start doing?
Well, there are 2 lines that I live by.
Go for it.
One is you're going to die.
This is true.
And we tend to forget that.
We're designed to die.
Yeah, we tend to forget that we're going to die. So we live this life of, I've got time, I'll do this later, I'll do this whenever. But you don't know when that's going to happen.
Which is so true. Mm-hmm.
So if there's something that you really want to do, start it now. And the other one that I live by is you're not dead yet.
It's true.
Very simple, very basic, but regardless of your age, you're so much younger than you think, and you have way much more time than you think, so which is a bit paradoxical to the other one, but ultimately if you're to live a full life, that shouldn't stop you from starting now. You need to keep those both in mind to actually start something. Some people started podcasts when they were 16 and they're doing great. Rich Roll started his podcast, I think, when he was 47, and now he's got a huge podcast.
My uncle, he started running at age 50 and he's run over 100 marathons.
Wow. Yeah, you see?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, if there's something you want to do, just do it, and no one cares.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Max,
for
coming
Thank you
onto
for
the
having
podcast.
me.
It's been a few moments of loss of clarity, but
well, you know, that's life, isn't it? It's a journey.
So, if anyone's made it through the whole of the podcast, where can they find you?
Well, they can find the Plant Code podcast. Yeah, occasionally in Dubai.
Occasionally in Dubai, yeah.
Almost all around the world, but on all platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Himalaya,
wow.
There's lots that I didn't even know existed. I'm on there, the Plant Code podcast. Instagram at the Plant Code, TikTok at the Plant Code as well. Pretty much everywhere, and I would love to hear from anyone.
Yeah, and I really recommend Max's podcast. It's great. I listen to it all the time. In fact, I'm always nagging him. When's your next episode coming out? So if you're new to veganism or you just want to listen to a great podcast, make sure you start listening to Max's podcast.
Thank you, Rowena. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
I'll have you online soon.
Yes.
Make it a double episode.
We will.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.
That's the year that they're saying's our last, unless we make a change now when we gotta be fast. But first we gotta make a shift in what we put in our mouths. These silly billies thinking vegans eating grass on the ground. We talking fast food, yo, it's burgers and fries, and it used to hurt the earth and the birds in the sky, but now they making it with plants, and it's so much better, cause the animals are safe. No more changes in the weather, we better act fast, cause the ice barely freezing. The world's changing quick, so welcome to Planet Vegan. Woo! Damn, man, can you feel that? This place is getting hot. If we want to save the world, it'll take some work. If you want to make it better, then take off your shirt, wave it around your head, and jump into the streets. The revolution starts now. Can you feel its heartbeat? If we want to save the world, man, we better be quick, cause we're killing all the piggies and the cows and the chicks. And I gotta be honest, I ain't a fan of our fate, but we can make a change now, and it starts on our plates. All around the world, it's a brand new dance. What you're making out of bodies, yeah, we're making out of plants. We gotta save the pigs and the fishes in the sea, so hold on to your pants, Planet Vegan soon to be. There's a change up in the system, I can feel it in the air, but it benefits us all, there's no need to be scared. We're gonna change the world and we'll do it in a day, so don't fight the future, Planet Vegan's here to stay. If we wanna save the world, it'll take some work. If you wanna make it better, then take off your shirt, wave it around your head, and jump into the streets. The revolution starts now, can you feel its heartbeat? If we wanna save the world, man, we better be quick, cause we're killing all the piggies and the cows and the chicks. And I gotta be honest, I ain't a fan of our fate, but we can make a change now, and it starts on our plates.
Massive forest fires have once again decimated the Californian coastline.
Iceland just held a funeral for the first glacier ever lost in the country's history due to warming weather patterns.
Europe was just hit with the hottest temperatures in recorded history.
Thousands of people are already dying every year from climate change-related issues, and this number is expected to rise exponentially over the coming decade.
Okay, this apocalyptic nightmare's about to be real. Forest fires, oceans flooding, let it fill you with fear. A billion refugees running across the borders in pain, and they're drowning while you're saying you're refusing to change. Slaughterhouses filled with bodies and they're letting out screams, but you're saying it's a lie, that it's only a dream. Let me tell you something, man, the nightmare is real, and you're paying for it daily with your supersized meal.